Why tourism is killing Amsterdam. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back. Today we're checking out some more tourism. I didn't expect to find Amsterdam on a place where tourism is completely overrunning the city. I know we've covered it somewhat in Spain, or was it Portugal? I think it might have been Spain. It might have been both of them. A little bit of issues with some over-tourism happening there. Is that what's happening in Amsterdam as well? We're gonna find out. This one's coming from the channel Hoog. Haven't checked them out before. Let's get into it. Strap in, buckle up. Should be a good one.
This is Amsterdam 2010. 767,000 inhabitants, 21,000 hotel rooms, and 9.7 million tourist overnight stays per year. And this is Amsterdam in 2025. 934,000 inhabitants, more than 40,000 hotel rooms, and 24 million tourists per year. Brits in Anne Frank t-shirts vomiting in canals. Nutella shops, €8 fries, Dubai stroopwafels, Argentinian steakhouses, boba tea, and endless suitcases. And it's only getting worse. The Amsterdam city government predicts the number of visitors next year could rise to 28 million, almost 4 million more than in 2025. But none of this was inevitable. In fact, the current problems are the result of intentional policy decisions, policy that was enacted years ago.
Did not think that we were going to get into policy. Was not expecting that. I was assuming that the tourism in Amsterdam was maybe getting really just extremely popular because of media and like movies. As an American, not really knowing too much about Europe, burying the last couple of, months or so once I've got a little bit more educated. But when I was growing up, one of the only major cities that I could ever name was Amsterdam because I always saw it in the movies. So crazy that we're dipping into policy here. All right.
Of intentional policy decisions, policy that was enacted years ago. And while residents deal with the consequences, a small group of hotel owners are getting very rich, while the city is helping them do it by protecting their monopoly. This is the story of why tourism is killing Amsterdam, how it came about, and also how to stop it. 2010, Amsterdam's economy wasn't looking too hot. The municipality was nearly bankrupt. It had to freeze almost all construction projects. There was no more money. Buildings in the center were standing empty. Tourism, one of the few sectors that hadn't collapsed, seemed like a way out. And hotels were a great use for all that prime real estate. Amsterdam is an internationally renowned city. For great use for all that prime real estate. Amsterdam is an internationally renowned city. It has famous museums, beautiful canals, and with its liberal image, it's also a popular destination for people who like to snort things other than culture. Tourism seemed ideal. It's an export product with free shipping. The Party for Labour alderman Caroline Giros traveled the world with Mayor Eberhard van der Laan to market Amsterdam as a top tourist destination. A special civil servant was appointed who, on behalf of the municipality, looked for locations where hotel chains could be built. The municipality had the power of the permit. They could decide whether certain parcels could be used as hotels. The moment this permit was granted, the future return of a piece of land was suddenly much higher. Historic buildings in the city center were sold off.
Looks beautiful.
From 2010 through 2016, the number of hotel rooms rose from just over 21,000 to more than 30,000. An increase of almost a third in 6 years.
Damn.
The number of visitors rose steadily along with it. In 2012, there were 10 million overnight stays in the municipality of Amsterdam. 4 years later, that had risen to 13 million. That growth wasn't just the result of Europe's economic recovery. While tourism boomed in much of Europe, Amsterdam led the pack. Selling the city to the world had worked better than anyone could have predicted. Gradually, it began to dawn on the city council that they might have opened the doors a bit too wide. Tourists can help pay for roads, social services, and create jobs, but there are trade-offs. Not all economic activities are equal. An urban location is fixed in supply. In a state of scarcity, you have to make choices. In the Amsterdam of 2010, every form of economic activity was of great value, because the entire economy was on its back.
There was a lot of economies on their back around this time. That was right after the 2008 financial crisis that we had here in the States, the housing crisis. Pretty sure that was spread out throughout most of the world.
Economic activity was of great value because the entire economy was on its back. But in 2026, the Dutch economy is growing, with the Amsterdam economy leading the way. There's now a shortage of space in the city instead of a surplus. Every building used by a stroopwafel joint, weed dispensary, hotel, or ticket shop can't be used by a local entrepreneur or resident. In Barcelona, perhaps the only city in Europe with more Brits on the street than Amsterdam, researchers studied the economic consequences of mass tourism. They found that more tourism does cause more people to work in the tourism sector, but it does not lead to less unemployment. Workers are pulled away from other sectors because the labor market is fairly fixed. The increase in employment in tourism is compensated by a fall in employment in construction and manufacturing. Tourism can crowd out other more productive sectors, a form of Dutch disease, but then in Amsterdam. And then there are the externalities. Tourists can take up space, not just in hotels and Airbnbs, but on sidewalks, in trams, on bike paths. This slows travel time and requires more money for maintenance. They generate waste, the stroopwafel wrappers, the beer bottles left on canal bridges at 2 a.m., and the overflowing bins in the Jordaan. Selling overpriced stroopwafels to stone tourists is better business than running a bakery, so amenities that locals use disappear. The data shows this. Bars, shops, and nurseries were pushed out of the city center by ticket shops and Nutella stores. Normally, these externalities would get priced in. Amsterdam residents pay to use city services, income tax, property taxes, trash tax, to cover the cost of roads, sanitation, and emergency services. Tourists, on the other hand, barely any. In 2017, attempting to reverse a trend they set into motion years earlier, the city
There's a lot of people.
council took its first serious measures against over-tourism.
Especially when it's like just a city, that many tourists in one location just to see the city. I would, if it's an amusement park or something like that, you expect everyone to be a tourist. But in the middle of a city where people are living, I can see how this would get a little annoying.
They passed a hotel stop, a ban on new hotel permits. This meant that no more hotels could be created, and the hotels that existed were granted an artificial monopoly. The number of hotel rooms in the city now stands at more than 40,000. That growth in hotels should have ended, but the policy was full of holes. There were permits already granted, buildings already under construction, new zoning plans turned out to still have room for new hotels, which the municipality couldn't prevent. It wasn't until 2021 that the hotel stop was made airtight. By then, the number of hotel rooms had risen from 30,000 to more than 40,000. But between 2017 and the start of the corona crisis, the number of visitors continued to rise. In 2019, Amsterdam reached 18.3 million overnight stays.
Damn.
In March 2020, things changed. COVID emptied the city overnight. Without tourists, Amsterdam Center suddenly...
Oh man, if you live in Amsterdam, what was that like once all the tourists weren't there anymore? Did the city just feel completely empty? I can imagine. I mean, things felt empty pretty much everywhere. Nobody was going outside, but it might have been so eerie, like walking through the city with that many less people in it.
became livable again. Residents started a petition, Amsterdam Has a Choice, asking the municipality to limit the number of visitors to 20 million per year. It was signed 30,000 times within a week. In June 2021, the city council took the petition to heart. A maximum of 20 million visitors per year was decided upon. From 18 million, the municipality would have to intervene. Finally, change seemed to be on the way. Unfortunately, the growth of tourism continued unabated. In 2023, there were 22.2 million overnight stays. In 2024, there were 22.9 million. But for the first time, the supply of hotel rooms no longer rose along with demand due to the lockdown hotel stop.
Are we getting Airbnb stats in here as well?
The city committing to limiting the number of tourists, it still stands to increase. The number of rooms in Amsterdam will barely budge in the coming years, but the number of tourists per year could still head towards 30 million by the end of this decade. The municipality keeps giving hotel owners free goodies. The partial Airbnb ban did little to decrease tourism. It forced visitors to spend even more on a hotel room instead. Because of the mismatch between supply, which will remain constant, and demand, which will only keep growing, hotel profits will rise explosively. The hotel stop didn't reduce tourism, it made the hotels richer. With the hotel stop not doing enough to curb demand and actually making hotels more profitable, the city government had to look for other measures to reduce tourism. Currently, the total tax on hotel rooms is 33.5%. 21% of that is VAT, which goes to the national government, not the municipality. The remaining 12.5% is the tourist tax, which goes to the municipal treasury. But there's an argument that it should be much higher. A higher tourist tax can have two effects. Either the number of tourists drop because hotel rooms become too expensive, or the municipality raises money to actually cover their negative externalities.
I think if you raise the taxes, yeah, definitely a lot less people would probably go.
Isn't administratively complex. Hotels can't avoid it because they're fixed on land, and it allows the municipality to avoid cruder policies like access gates in Venice or activists in Barcelona with water pistols. Unfortunately, raising the
Oh yeah, we saw some video on that. The water pistols when they were shooting tourists with water guns. It was actually pretty funny.
tourist tax seems politically controversial. The hotel industry has actively lobbied against it. In 2024, the trade association KHN announced that they would litigate against the tax increase. Hotels that benefited from the artificial scarcity of the hotel stop are now fighting to keep their windfall profits untaxed. A textbook example of regulatory capture, crony capitalism. At the same time, the alderman responsible for tourism in Amsterdam isn't exactly bursting with ambition. Sofian Mabarki put signs up in the red light district asking tourists to please not piss on the houses. He ran ads in England begging stag parties to stay away. If the city's own research says tripling is required, that means a rate closer to 37%. At that level, a €200 hotel room would carry €74 in tourist tax alone. Expensive,
that's pretty steep.
But that's not the point. A tax of just 32% would bring the number of visitors down to less than 20 million. The city admits this in its own research. It would also bring in €356 million of tax revenue. Tax revenue
Seems like
that
it's
could
the
be well
quickest
used to
fix.
fast-track construction permitting or fund trash cleanup. Early last year, the initiators of the petition Amsterdam Has a Choice announced a lawsuit to force the municipality to keep its promise. A maximum of 20 million tourists per year, and if there are more, serious measures must be taken. A higher tourist tax then. The city council made a firm promise in 2021 that they've been breaking for years now. It's quite possible that, thanks to the court, something will finally change. And that change couldn't come a moment too soon.
All right, we're going to have to swing back around and get an update on this in about a year or so. Why Amsterdam is so expensive? Because every tourist is going there. All right, that was really, really interesting. I had no idea that there was that many people going. What was the highest that he said? Was it 28 million, I think? 28 million in 2000 and probably 2025 maybe? They probably don't have 25's numbers yet, but that's an insane amount of people to be visiting one city, especially, I don't know exactly the full size of Amsterdam, but that's a lot. All right, I'm getting out of here. Appreciate you guys watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.